Thank you guys, and I hope you can see my screen. So here we are for the knowledge session on the new master direction, which has come recently, just week back, where on the cyber resilience and digital payment security control for non-bank payment system operators. So we'll go and talk about that. What are these dynamics are there? What are the controls are there, and how do we go about it to ensure the compliance? So with that, myself, Shashank Shekhar, just quick introduction from my side. I've worked with L&T Infotech and the Wipro in earlier part of my career, where that primarily my focus area has been the cybersecurity, governance, regulatory compliance, business continuity. So that's I've been working there, primarily working with the BFSI customers across India and Middle East and Asia Pacific. And then joined DCB Bank, where that I worked on the governance, again, infrastructure, data center, managing the data center, as well as driving the digital banking as well as open banking. So have seen that both the side of the world. One is that driving the security, while at the second hand ensuring the security also as a role of the digital banking and the open banking. So in this master direction, I've been joined by Deepak Sai. Deepak, if you can just quickly introduce yourself, and then we'll get started.
Sure, Shashank. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Deepak. I've been a part of Digital Pif for over 4 years now. So, while I started my career as a technology consultant, we've been working very judiciously on a lot of risk and compliance projects. I've been a part of several banking risk and compliance assignments and even for a lot of NBFCs. So overall, we've been focusing on the latest advancements, be it digital transformation, be it security transformation, or be it advisory, risk and compliance aspect. So we've been working on several of these aspects. Yeah.
Thank you, Deepak. So in this 1 hour sessions, we'll try to touch upon that what are the key components of this master directions, and then as well as that what insights that we can derive from this master directions. What are the implications to all these participants that will get impacted by this master direction, and how do you go about it building the compliance framework? Because you may have certain controls may not be there, certain structure might be already been placed, but certain realignment you will require to do that. Just quick introduction about our firm. Many of you may be already knowing that, but I'll not take more than a minute or two. So we've been primarily the consulting firm into the digital payments, fintech, as well as the risk and compliance advisory. Our focus is purely on the BFSI, and we also conduct one of the largest fintech event called Bharat Fintech Summit. So next Bharat Fintech Summit coming in February. Keep tuned to our newsletters and the LinkedIn page to get more updates. Samir is the founder and CEO, and Srikanth is our co-founder, the third co-founder who drives the sales and partnership. I'll not talk about the journey part of it. Most of you know us. This is our clientele base, and we are lucky to have the support from the ecosystems where that we are working across all the domain, from the digital advisory to the payment advisory to technology, as well as the risk and compliance. And we do lots of the training, corporate trainings across the digital banking, lending, payments, master directions, compliance, all the subjects across. Our value proposition is primarily a practice, thought leadership, where that we know the market, we know the subjects from the digital side of it, the business, the product, then able to technologies, as well as the risk and compliance. The combination of all the from the business to technologies to the risk and compliance, and that's where they primarily try to bring into the table. We continue to bring lots of the newsletters, white papers, and lots of the blogs on the market, what's happening in the industry. That's where we focus. And we go with a practitioner approach, because that's we have worked always throughout our life. We have worked that Samir and the team, and that's where that we are trying to apply that our consulting with that approach. Core service area, the consulting is then partnership, then corporate training, as already spoken about. I'll not talk much. In the risk and compliance, primarily 3 area verticals that we cater to. The one is a cybersecurity and risk advisory part of it. Then compliance, like this master direction is there, that what we can do and what we can't do. And the technology advisory services, like in case if you're looking for the technologies, transformation programs, technology architecture review, that's we do that. So on the cybersecurity risk advisory, we can help on the IT and IS audit, third-party risk management, certification support that you're looking for ISO 27301 or PCI DSS. Then also help you to build the technology risk management, business continuity. That's where there. Compliance advisory, regulatory compliance and framework, Digital Personal Data Protection Act that we'll talk, and then technology advisory. With respect to this master directions, I'll just take 30 seconds. So what expertise that we bring on the table, able to do the complete compliance assessment with respect to master direction, that where do we stay with respect to all the 120 controls which has been listed down in the master directions, help you to realign your policies, processes, checklists to the master directions, governance and risk management framework, setting up that whole board structure as well as the senior manager structure to that help you to perform the third-party security audit, as well as prepare you well for the RBI audit readiness, because now the master direction is there. It means that regulatory supervision will come with respect to this master directions for all the participants who are part of this master direction, as well as support to the PSO 27 the PCI DSS. So not only the as is a study, but complete help you into the compliance readiness, and as well as the help you to manage the program. So with this, we'll just jump into that topic itself. So if you look at it, the whole of the cybersecurity and risk management evolutions, the entire regulatory framework evolution in the country, I think it has been primarily taken a pace from the 2016 onwards, where that most of the digitizations had started picking up in the industry, especially in the BFSI. New payment methods coming up, UPI coming up, and rest of the other transformation that we have seen. And 2016 was there where the first time that RBI bring the cybersecurity frameworks in the banks, very comprehensive control requirements, right? And there were some guidelines on the card payments and electronic payments. And they continue to do that. 2019, then some additional measures on the ATM side of it, or the ATM switch application providers that has been brought. Then continued on the 2020 also some additional, but I think it was 2021 where that first time master direction digital payment security controls came, which was primarily for the banks. And if you try to look at the current master direction, you will see that kind of the replications. And I'll talk about that why this replication is there in the subsequent slide. 2021 the focus prominent to the digital payments, and I think because that continued increase in the cyber frauds, risk, increase in cyber security risk, and all these things. So that was the primary objective. And then 2023, then again, RBI has tried to strengthen the entire cybersecurity and the governance framework within the banking ecosystem by bringing additional guidelines for the banks with respect to at this time they have been widening that universe of the applications of this master direction from not only the banks but all the small finance bank, NBFCs, upper and middle layer to that level also. And also bringing that, tightening the controls for the outsourcing, because outsourcing has continued to increase. And if you want to refer to any of these master direction, our webinars are available, or YouTube videos are available on our website. And I think 2024, we have seen, and in the last couple of months, in the week itself, we have seen more and more guidelines like April, I think we released guidance on operational risk management and operational resilience. There also, they have been emphasizing a lot more on the how to ensure that dependencies on the third parties is minimal, as well as your entire that business continuity aspects. And 2024, just 1 week before, we have cyber resilience and digital payment security controls. And please put up your question in case if you have any questions in the chat box. Put the questions. We'll be happy to pick up the questions as we move, or we'll continue to take a pause. So I think objective is very clear that they have already identified and they've done the classification. So they want to put up a kind of the timeline based kind of the implementation structure for different category of non-bank PSOs, while also put on a complete understanding of the new requirement, ensure the readiness for the compliance, right? And I think reason is what obvious. There has been massive increase in the cyber fraud incidents, right? And largely which has been reported, but there has not been many of which has not been getting reported also. And if you look at it from the banks or the PSO side, continued increase in the phishing kind of the activities, lots of the penetrations, continued to penetration to the environment of the banks as well as the NBFCs and the PSOs, right? Settlement related issue, performance and uptime related issues. AML is always continued to be the risk. I think these are the risks which have been anyway already there in the banks, while now it has been extended to the PSOs, because if you look at the ecosystem is very tightening, especially in the digital payment side. It's the entire ecosystem is very tightly interlinked, and that's where that RBI objective is that how do we try to circumvent and hold that, put that circle of controls framework around the participant, not only the one individuals, which is on the one side of the periphery, right? So that's where the objective And that's, I think, the one of the reason could be that bring the non-bank PSOs also into the fold of the universe. Focus area has been put up on a right sustainable compliance framework to ensure that all the participants have the uniform security framework. And that's why I was telling that 2021 guidelines of the DPSC is exactly looks like the same which is there on the this 2024 guidelines. Ecosystems can work very collaboratively, because now if you are partnering with any payment aggregator as well, or say, for example, any trades institution partner with any kind of an banking partner, I think both end the control framework is going to be remain same, right? So that's where that they're trying to talk about it. I think continued the customer data protection and customer protection is always on the top priority of the RBI. So that's where that they are trying to put the loss of the control to what do you say, secure the customers, the risk part of it, and then whole of the governance framework. This is that I think as per the master direction that exactly been put lost. I think 70% of the participants falling into the large categories. Some of the names are like be it on the NPCI and some of this in the semi-regulatory institutions anyway there. But the networks, non-bank ATM networks, white label ATM, PPI issuers or the payment aggregators or the trades platform all falling, and they have to comply with 1st of April 2025. So good that RBI has given a leeway of 8 months to go back and see where are you standing at with respect to all the control requirement. Because certain things may be easy to do that, but certain things may not be easy. It will take its own time, sweet time frame to do that. And that's where the time frame has been provided, and subsequently for others, extended time frame has been provided based on the minimal risk per se, right? So with this, I'll go into the implication and all this thing, but just want to spend 15 to 20 minutes where the Deepak will just try to give you the insight that what are the controls are there and what are the checkpoints at the high level of the checkpoints that you need to keep in the mind that will demonstrate that your readiness of the compliance. So Deepak, over to you.
Thank you, Shashank. And as very well summarized in the earlier slides by Shashank, from what we are going to see here, be it the governance aspects or several other aspects that have been brought in by this master direction, are nothing what we have not seen in that. As the ecosystem is getting much more tightly coupled, most of the controls which have been already specified by RBI specifically for banks and PSCs and several other financial institutions have also been extended to the non-banking PSOs. Now, speaking of the governance controls, we, if at all, we see largely the appointment of CISO has been mandated across all the institutions because of the increase in cyber frauds as we've been discussing. So that is what has also been brought into for the non-banking PSOs. And also having a really robust IS, which is information security policy, which is reviewed annually. In this aspect, we also need to actually have several aspects like, it could be your access controls, it could be your, how do you recover in terms if at all there is any issue, or having a cyber crisis plan be mandated by your information security policy. And also covering several other aspects like how do you actually look at the application security, how are you trying to maintain overall security posture of the organization, how are you managing the roles and responsibilities of individuals who are going to be cross-functional across the team. So overall, most of these things, along with your change management, patch management, have to be very well defined in the policy. And this policy has to be board approved. So, with that also comes your change management committees and all the other things which have to be maintained at each of the organization level. So beyond this, each of these policies will have to go through the annual iterations based on the specifications coming from the regulators or maybe the market changes, whatever the organization has been witnessing. And from there, if at all we look at the master direction also specifies on having a cyber crisis management plan. This has to be, we all know about a recent incident that has happened a couple of weeks or maybe 10 days ago, right? Where a large network which is related to NPCI has gone down from a different source, and it has affected the payments of around 200 regional banks. So that's where things have been very robust, not the institution which is directly affected, but all the ancillary institutions who are also correlated can actually bring down to these cyber issues. So in terms when the organization falls into this pitfall or experiences such crisis, what are the immediate steps that we need to do? How do we actually ensure the business resilience and operational resilience is maintained so that even including our staff are very well trained in terms of what is the next thing that they have to do? and how quickly can we bring the transactions up again, ensure the transactability is not affected. So those are certain things that we have to take care, and also having a holistic risk management exercise or risk assessment exercise that is going to be taken care across whole of the organization. So when we actually look at these, risk assessment activities, we also have to look at what are the kind of KRIs and KPIs are we defining for the institution. So what is my high availability that I'm going to maintain for my organization? What has been the downtime? How has it affected? And what is my, mitigation plan to ensure how can I mitigate this in future and reduce the downtime? Or were there any vulnerabilities reported? How quickly have I ensured to resolve these vulnerabilities? And what are the other kinds of phishing attacks that we have experienced over a periodic time of review? How do we ensure we block it? How do we ensure we have our security systems guarding up all these kinds of attacks and helping us be ready is something that we have to do. And ensuring that we conduct quarterly meetings with all the committees that we've been discussing about. So there has to be a steering committee where all of these things are discussed, and then it is presented to the board committee as well, where most of the things in terms of the findings have been taken care, or whatever is the next plan that can be discussed across and implemented across the organization. Moving forward to the next set of controls which have been designed. This is on the baseline security measures. If at all we again look at most of these things, these have been very well defined in most of the regulations. So this includes, your inventory management. This includes your IT, which is your information technology systems, as well as your application inventory. So maintaining each and every record of each of your asset, what is the support time of this particular asset, how quickly, what are the third-party services which are running in my application? How do you actually ensure these business critical functions are working all the time and ensuring they are having the high availability? And how is the business value driven out of this particular inventory is something that we will have to keep checking. And on the access side, in terms of the file access, most of the places, while the SFTPs are working or any other active integrations or data sharing through APIs are working. But to ensure that even when the third-party integrations are working, the data is shared securely, the role-based access has to be coming into the picture. And this role-based access, if at all there are any changes that are happening in future places, the integration changes, or maybe the person is actually moving out, has to be periodically reviewed and ensure that all these controls are efficiently not just defined but maintained in the organization. And on the network security aspects, it is very important to actually have a robust SIM and SOC setup to actually start dealing with all these attacks that are coming in, which is SOC. When we say it is the Security Operations Center, so we have to review on daily what are all the, in terms of the monitoring aspects, whatever we put in. So what are the attacks that we've been seeing, or what are the logs that each of the system has been reporting, and analyzing these logs with your SIM tools that have been deployed, and ensuring that whatever vulnerabilities or problems that we have been witnessing in terms of this security posture, we take quick remedial actions and ensure that these issues are resolved. And on the application security lifecycle, so adhering to the application security lifecycle, be it on your integrations, API security, or be it your two-factor authentication, wherever it is required. So we will have to start defining these items. And at each stage of the application, we have to start taking care on what is required. And in terms of the security testing aspects, we'll also have to look at what kind of vulnerabilities are experienced across the particular product. What kind of issues are we seeing in terms of your integrations with the third parties? And how do we ensure that the applications are not just being worked upon by certified developers, but also ensure that each of these issues that we are seeing have been quickly remediated through in terms of application development lifecycle, and how are we actually trying to ensure that we are following the proper change management and process, where we are testing out in the environment, that is ensuring we test it out in UAT, then testing out in pre-prod, and then practically moving it out to the production where each of the third parties could be working it out. And on the security testing as well, we'll have to, promptly or periodically keep taking this VAPT and application security tests across the organization. And for each of the applications that are involved, be it in-house applications or whatever the web applications that are the mobile applications that are being actively utilized by your clients or actively utilized by the employees or customers, have to rigorously go through the security testing, where we actually try and understand where are the vulnerabilities that can actually lead to a maybe data breach or maybe some kind of ransomware attack, or maybe some kind of DDoS attack, where there could be several possibilities of we losing out the business or not being able to do the business as the value we are trying to define. And the vendor risk management, this is nothing but our outsourced risk management, where RBI has come specifically with a regulation for different banks as well. But in terms when it is coming down to non-banking PSOs, they are being directing across with respect to the security controls and the vendor related threats that have to be taken care in terms of the third party integrations that are happening. And we have to ensure the security measures are not just taken care by us as an institution, but also all the third parties who are integrating with our applications have to follow these controls and ensure that all the vulnerabilities or the security implications are taken care of. Moving down to the next slide.
Yeah, so Deepak, we'll just take a pause. Please
Sure.
share your questions in the Q&A. I think there is a one question where that I think always the concern being raised that many of the partners that you work with, they typically don't share the source code, right? Guidelines, I think it's applicable to the banks as well as that this master direction, that in case if the partner is not ready to share the source code, typically may not be the scenario. You can go with the escrow arrangement, and typically since now whole in the industry knows that and the software providers know that they have to adhere to these guidelines, right? Because they need to support the banks in or the PSOs into that journey. So you can go into the escrow arrangement. I think new platforms are coming, like say for example, escrow tech is there. Castler has recently launched a platform. So you can explore some of these mechanisms and work very closely with your software partner, and they will be okay to go for the escrow arrangements, right? Typically 3 tri-party arrangements will be there. Okay, I think there is another question. Yeah. Manjunath is asking, as a periodic review, what are the security compliance control to be checked on the SaaS model application hosted? Yeah, so Manjunath, I think list will be laundry, but you need to work, put up a structure across all the domains of the controls which has been listed down from the identity and access management, because some of the things will be at your side of the control, because on the SaaS, if you are using certain of the controls may be on the environment side of it. So you need to segregate both, like say, for example, access management, the change management, the log management, audit frameworks, and all these things. Some of the things which you can put up that from your side organization that you can check from the admin perspective. Well, some of the controls that you need to go back to the partner who is providing, like especially the backend controls and all these things like patch management, how does it happen on the environment, how the incident management structure is there from their side. So you can put up in a structure and you can go about it. And then what are the requirements for, so that's there, but I know it's a very short answer, but this is typically the one large. So you need to sit down and put a checklist. Continue. I think there is it's called a Hiral Gilan. What are the requirements for base layer NBFC to be adhered to? Guest committee reports and all is not. So at this stage, majority of the master direction which has been released, I think this is beyond this scope of master direction. But earlier master direction which are there for the upper layer and middle layer, like outsourcing or the IT governance, doesn't apply to the base layer. While some of this specification like guidance or the operational risk management, fraud management, and I think at that extent. So you need to look at the specific ones and then you take a call that what you need to adhere to here. Yeah. So Deepak, continue.
Sure.
So please keep on question. And guys, I think it's still in the mid of our webinar. My partner is team member is putting in a feedback form. Please do share your feedback and rather than choking everybody with the deck, so we typically would share the deck with those who are providing us the feedback. So please do share your feedback. And it always helps us to continue to improve upon, right? So that we can continue to bring a better knowledge on the table. Yeah, Deepak, continue.
Yes. So, thank you, Shashank. Continuing on the several other requirements which have been defined in the base layer information security. So, one is the data security. So, be it the PII data or the regular data, which because of the third-party integrations, we need to ensure that we have control on what data is being shared, and not just across the third-party institutions, but even inside the organization, we need to start having this data inventory and also have the process maps and the diagram maps, which actually define us where is the how is the communication between different applications happening. What are the data points that are being shared across different applications, or which are moving across from inside the organization's network through a third-party network? So all these things have to be mapped across, and along with that, we need to have proper encryption measures in place in case you have personal data, or let's say the other data, it needs to be vaulted and ensure that the reference keys have to be shared. These have to be stored along with the path data. So those are all the things that we will have to take care on the network secure, the data security aspects. And we'll also moving on to the change and patch management aspects as we have discussed earlier. So be it your application development lifecycle or be it any of the security tools that you're taking, everything has to go through this change management and have to be deployed as per the as per the IT and IS policy that we are trying to define, has to go through the life cycle and has to be defined by your change management committee, where you're testing out all these things and checking out the applicability and the impact of impact at each and every step and across all the tools that are available and applications that are available. It is going to be very crucial because we've also seen one of the just simple update that went, took down almost half the world operations recently, right, in the last couple of months. So these kind of things keep happening where without robust management of the change management or the patch management activities, it might start affecting any particular tool or entire business operations as well. And in terms of the incident response, as we've earlier discussed about having a comprehensive crisis management aspect, at the same level, we also need to start having incident management response. This is much shorter version in terms, let's say the organization has just went into a particular issue. What should be the immediate communication that we need to circulate in the organization? What kind of immediate steps that we need to take? How do you analyze the impact of this particular incident that has happened? How do you take preventive measures that are to be deployed? What are these preventive measures that have to be deployed? Who's the one who's going to be responsible? All of these things have to be checked upon and wait for the incident response. So it and have to be regularly tested out as well, so that the staff members are trained in terms of what needs to be done. And coming down to cloud security, in recent times, most of the SaaS providers have been moving and utilizing cloud very rigorously, right? While several of the requirements across the tool are not very well defined. Most of the organizations at the initial stage are still preferring to go with the cloud, where there are also several aspects. While it is easy to start operating and start working upon, the security of the cloud or the security measures that have to be taken across the cloud are still at a step where for the financial transactions, it's still not very well defined. So we'll have to ensure that the data segregation is there, the environmental segregation is there, maintained in the cloud. The logical segregation of the organization to organization has to be maintained. So all of these aspects have to be checked out with the cloud provider. And let's say in future, we are trying to exit the cloud, what is the level of data access that we will have? And what is the extent of future access that we can expect from these data? All these aspects have to be defined and have to be segregated. And in terms of the security aspects as well, so they have to be defined exactly the way they have been defined for the organizational uh, data center or maybe the network that they are trying to maintain. So the security level has to match at both environments. So that has to be maintained. And the API security is something that
I think Deepak is facing some challenge at his side. I think he was talking about the API security. And I think entire the digital payments structure is driven through the APIs. That's why I think lots more emphasis has come on the API security. And there have been other security measures also. Now, what are the checkpoints? I think a lot more, but some of the key things that you have in data policies and data security and backup processes in place. I think placement of ISMS, because it says talk about having an information security management system. I think ISO 27000 certification is the best way, because you can able to demonstrate the compliance state, right? PCI DSS certification is definitely in a kind of must now if you are storing the payment card related data on your environment, right? And then demonstrable change records, evidence for patch management. These are some of the checkpoints that you will have to follow that. I think Deepak, you are back. So continue.
Yes, yes.
And
Yeah.
Deepak, maybe
So,
5 minutes, if you can just 5 to
sure.
7.
Sure. So speaking of the DPSC controls that we've been just speaking about, so on the DPSC side, the alerts and notifications have been very well defined now as per the master direction. So the transaction alerts have to be defined, be it on the parameters like your failed transactions or excess activity happening, or maybe unusual activity, which is like numerous number of transactions coming out from the same terminal. All these things have to be monitored and the notifications have to be shared across the required stakeholders in the organization, where it is, I mean, we also have to ensure that these notifications, not just at the notification level, but also have to be shared across to the, management, where they understand what has happened and what is the remedial action that has been taken care across. And speaking of the card payments, as we've been just discussing about how we have to ensure the certifications of DPSE have to be taken care of. PCI DSS is something that we have to take care of if we are storing the card data, right? And with the, the P2P or PTS transactions, or where we have also defined across the OTP level control that have to be defined at the bin level and all these aspects. So, and ensuring that the data is encrypted and stored across all the levels. So this helps us maintain robust, not just the security aspects, but also ensures we are securing the transactions and the data of the customers, including the non-PII data, right? So those things are very important. And in terms of the fraud monitoring aspects, in recent times, there have been too many frauds that we've been across, been checking across, be it the new account side, be it several other aspects where the linkage between the accounts and the transactions have just are going up crazy, right? So looking at that, we'll have to implement across the fraud monitoring or fraud reporting features across all the mobile applications, websites, portals, whatever is actually going to be a user interface that we are going to share with the customers, or maybe the third party partners who are going to help us complete these particular transactions. So all these, along with the necessary authentication features like your two-factor authentication, have to be taken care across to ensure not just on the quick transactions and quick reporting, but also securing these particular transactions or login mechanisms, whatever is happening. And on the prepaid instrument side, encouraging the OTP of the transaction, where we are not just managing the transaction alerts, but also ensuring that they can be customized in terms of the user language if it is needed, and implementing the cooling period between the for the fund transfers and cash is something that has been cash withdrawals after loading the funds into PPI has been something that has been mandated. And in terms of the mobile payments, maintaining anomaly-free mobile apps, which is nothing but your ensuring that the applications do not have any vulnerabilities or issues that actually can hamper the business transactions, have to be taken care of. And also blocking the mobile access or the app access to the remote sessions or the screenshots or screen recording kind of features, which can actually hamper the security of those particular applications. So checking all the, checkpoints, speaking of the checkpoints, so auditing of the applications is something that we'll have to go through and ensure that the device binding and session management are being taken care of, including the secure access and the features that are being there. And PSOs terminals have to go through the compliance check, that is PCI, P2P, or maybe the PTS standards. And real-time fraud monitoring is something that we have to implement, and also ensure that we have to mask sensitive information when we are trying to share these notifications across, be it your OTPs or any other notification that we are sharing with the customers. So moving on to understand how a complete baseline foundation or the framework of this security architecture looks like. Shashank, if we can please go to the next slide. Yeah, so baseline security resilience, when we are speaking of today, it will look like this. So it will involve the inventory management, preventing unauthorized access, or having real-time threat defense and management aspects, and also having the network management security, and several of the strategies which can prevent from data leakage or authentication framework, and then having the regular VAPT testing or audit log, which has been monitored and audited regularly. and the vendor risk management being put in place, and also having the role-based access at baseline level, and also checking out the employee awareness. So this actually has to be embedded into one of the KPIs, where we are not only maintaining these controls but also training our employees on what kind of what is the awareness that they have in terms of what is the new age phishing attacks or any of the security attacks are happening, and also ensuring that the customer is educated and has been put to awareness in terms of what is happening. And on the cybersecurity operations center side, it is on the functional requirements have to be taken care across where even we are looking at the governance requirements, be it your policy requirements or setting the standards for the organization, forming these committees where we do the regular reviews, and also looking at the integration requirements when it is any new third party which is being proposed to integrate with our application, what are the level of controls that we need to maintain. And in terms of the people requirements, be it people not just on the technical side, but also, I mean, required personnel on the security aspects and security operations side have been deployed to keep regularly monitoring and managing. And process and technological requirements are to be taken care of, be it your encryption side or the, I mean, any of the certifications that have to be done. And on the control side, the alerts have to be put in place across all the applications, including mobile security. Fraud management has to be there, and the other level of PCI DSS certification, which can actually help your application be robust. So moving ahead, I hand it over to Shashank.
Yeah, thanks, Deepak. I think there are some questions again. We'll pick up the questions, and please do keep sharing your questions. It always because Master Direction is here. I think more of the discussions may help us to get the clarity, and we are also learning through the process, guys. So I think Vikas is asking questions. Very interesting. I think with respect to ensuring the control mentioned in the Master Directions are adhered to be vendors. I think this is very important questions. And if you look at the start of the master direction itself, where the RBI has made it clear that all the non-bank PSOs who are working with the unregulated entities, which could be your third-party security providers, switch providers, the payment system providers, or your technology vendors, you need to ensure that what are the control expectations are there, where that depending on the what kind of the services that they are providing, you need to understand that what applies to them, and you need to make sure that take a kind of a certification from them, or you doing the third party audit with them to ensure that they also adhere. So in large, you can say that most of the control which is applicable to you, you need to pass on to the partners who are unregulated but providing all kind of support, be it on technologies, operational support, vendor kind of things. So that's you need to do that. Next question, I think, because we love to interact separately with you. We were very happy. To what extent in such adherence applicable? Are there any exceptions? I don't think there are exceptions. Timeline has been provided. I've worked with the banks, I've worked with the NBFCs on the various compliance expectations. There are typically no leeway when it comes to the security resilience kind of the guidelines, right? But you need to do a kind of a detailed understanding and the gap analysis kind of things, or applicability assessment also, to figure it out that what applies to whom, right? And then accordingly ensure that whatever applicable need to be ensure the compliance. And what are the vendors? I think it's all, again, Vikas is asking what are the vendors covered, and will it also cover the cloud infra provider? Yes. And that's why you look at the cloud service provider that has been very clearly called out, be it on the, you are using it as an infra provider or the platform provider, as well as the SaaS providers, right? And you need to also do a kind of an audit. Typically, these are not easy, but because most of them will have the international kind of arrangement, but typically these entities also provide a good kind of the compliance structure because of being is a part of the regulatory environment. They also know that they need to adhere to this guideline. So you can obtain kind of the certification from them, right? So that's there, and all kind of the vendors, especially on the tech side, be it on your switch provider, your processors, or the reconciliation providers. I don't know what it could be depending on the what areas, because if you look at the non-bank PSO scopes, widening from NPCI to the trades kind of the platforms to the payment aggregator, all are different, and they may have the different kind of the vendor profiles, right? So, and one of the things which is very clearly asking you to do as a part of the master direction, that build in a network flow for your all the transactions. When you're building a network flow, you will understand that what are the different touch points, what are your internal touch points, what are your external touch points. And depending on that kind of the flow and ability to find out that your external touch point, you will understand that who are the vendors, what controls it will apply to them. So that's where that you first exercise would is that go and lay down your entire the transaction flow diagram and the network flow diagram, right? Sanjay is asking, is all cyber fraud with resolutions are shared among all the banks and fintech stakeholder as knowledge base? Typically, RBI is very clearly that all the cyber incident has to be reported within the 6 hours, and it has been seen as a practice also. RBI circulate among all the members. It may not be publicly available every time, but circular goes to the banks as well as all the participating bodies that what has been incident, what kind of the root cause has been there, and the information are shared among. It may not be available as a public knowledge base, Sanjay, but typically it's as being available with the participants. And the question again, because who all can be, so the question with respect to the alert mechanism, who can we consider as the members participant here? So I told you, I think it's best approach is to draw your network diagrams, your transaction flow diagram, end to end, and then you will be able to figure out what are your internal touch point, external touch point, and that will help you to decide that who all are the participants there, right? And then when asking question in which category vendor would we need to ask them to provide us with the source code, is that also applicable for onboarding service provider like 𝐇𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐥𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐭𝐬? I think these are the service provider from that primarily more like a service and software as a service. You can also ask them that may be also applicable, right? But if they are just an API provider, may not be. But let's say, for example, if you are using a switch provider, is there, or on-prem deployment, is there any kind of the software which is a full-fledged, as in a separate instance has been available for you to use it? I think that's where definitely you need to go for the source code. And if they are not providing the source code, then go for the escrow arrangement, right? So these are typically which 𝐇𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐥𝐢𝐠𝐡𝐭𝐬 you may be using as APIs, which may not be required to have the code because it's at APIs level. But if you are using, let's say, for example, any analytics platform or any partner who is providing the switch capabilities, be it on the BBPS, AEPS, I don't know, right? Depending on that, or the payment gateway. So payment, if you are a payment aggregator and using the payment gateway of the third party, then definitely you need to go and opt in the source code. So lovely. I think please do share your questions, and more importantly, please do share your feedback. We'll definitely get back to you within our deck who are providing the feedback, and feedback helps us to improve, right? So we have seen that what standard is there, what are the control measures are there, and details are available in the master directions, right? But I think look at the implications gonna be there on the entity, and it is large. Like we try to classify into the 4 categories. One is definitely there is a huge gonna be impact on the organizational structure that you need to. Many of the organizations which are the large, they have already the CISO and the security operations center and some governance board level structure is there, but many of them may not have, right? So that's where you need to put up the entire structure of the CISO governance and bring the entire security oversight from the executive committee of the management to the board level, so that an entire the reporting structure. So whole of the scheduling of the board meetings will have to plug in that very dedicated focus for the discussion on this security controls as well. And then definitely continue to be the strict incident management, management-driven governance framework where that you see that they have specified that need to have the KRAs and the key risk indicators as well as the key performance indicator. And you have to continue to gather the data, analyze, and prepare your KRIs and the KPIs and continue to present to the board and the management. So management roles continue to be very tight. Well, these are the typically at the organization structure a huge impact on the technology side, because lots of the security controls and the tools deployment, you may have to do that. Or maybe existing tools may need to be rethink kind of a structure, right? So design of your tech solution and the tech processes, and you need to reimagine your journeys, processes, servicing. Let's say, for example, product roadmap you may have, and you will have that following maybe agile mechanism, a sprint mechanism to keep on rolling out the feature. But you need to go within a very strong batch management, change management kind of the structure into the whole of the process. So that's kind of the implications that you will have into the whole of the process of the technologies, right? Identity access management, you will find lots of the people moving and going out. So you need to tighten the whole of the process. I think because now that there is a heavy focus bringing on the whole of the cyber resilience and security, and CISO roles is going to be tighter and tighter. They're going to be, you need to balance and have strong alignment between CISO and the CTO. And banks has always struggled with that, right? But for all the good reasons. So that's also comes down to PSOs, that the CEOs and the top management will have to ensure that it doesn't hamper the innovation, because non-bank PSOs, if you look at, they're pioneering to the innovations, but it doesn't hamper the innovation. But at the same time, you are able to manage the risk also better, right? The cost definitely will have an implications. The technical and security control deployments. You will have to relook whole your application development and management maintenance process framework itself. Focus on the entire the source code review, the change management, release of the codes, secure coding standard that need to be bring into the picture. So lots more challenge impacts that you will see into the whole of application management. And as the ecosystem is tightly integration through the APIs, most of the platforms use the cloud. So you'll have to revisit your APIs in the cloud security, as Deepak was talking about in the process, right? Well, at the technology impact, it will also bring out the impact on the platforms as well as the business, because you will have to relook entire the platform journey design, and where that in the journey that you need to bring that all the appropriate control with respect to alert, notifications, the security, encryption, and all these things. You will have to revisit that. Majority you may have there, but some of the places, if you're not there, then you need to relook. And that's where it's emphasized that you draw a kind of a network flow diagram, right? And try to figure it out where the touch points are there. That will help you to build that all the minute controls into the whole of the process. That's the second point I was talking about. And in that, definitely it will have impact that way you manage your partnership, right? And outsourcing arrangement that you need to go back and look. Because certain things, like for example, if you have outsourced the entire the development process, then whole of the control landscape changes with the partner to do that. Or if you're using any white label platform from the third party, because that's also, again, you need to bring that other third party into the pictures to ensure that your compliance is being maintained through. And in the process, if you may have you may see some kind of implication in your product and services. And definitely, as the whole of the framework is emphasizing a lot more on the risk management, you'll have to tighten the risk management framework. So these are the typical implications that you will see. And the challenges are wide, right? It's not going to be easy. Some of the large entity, as I was talking about, that they may have CISO, right? They may have some kind of some processes already there. While the banks, if you look at it, banks has grown, it took a long time. Like 2011, the Gopal Krishnan committee came and banks gone into the structure of building the very tightened regulatory controls for the security. Many of non-PSOs may not have gone through the process, right? So it will have an impact on the challenges you will find it to balance between the people, processes, and technologies. Challenges you will find out to how to get that my current existing security posture, right? Because that's your first going to be starting point to look at it. So getting that whole of the security posture, and then finding out that what kind of the compliance gaps are there and how to go about filling into that. Then also finding on expertise, because you may not have in-house expertise to look at the nuances of the control expectations, and then how to maneuver through the process of the implementation, then as well as the working with the partners to ensure that they also adhere to the compliance. So entire the challenge of the governance and risk management professionals within the organizations, you will find it challenges. And I was talking about that it's a plethora of the security controls are there. So you need to figure it out and balance also between your service delivery and the risk management part of it. So that's also another challenge, and a couple of additional challenges, like how do you go about and look at your technology stack, APIs, cloud services, platforms, and then from the compliance, which will require a very meticulous attention to the details, right? Selecting the right security solutions from fraud management to encryption mechanism, antivirus, kind of the patch management, identity access management. It's a lot more tools that probably you may need to opt for that. So finding out a right security solution, and which is also cost effective. And you need to also look at whether you need to go for on-prem, cloud-based kind of things, subscription-based or license-based kind of thing. Those lots of the questions will come, and find out the different challenges. And your complexity will continue to increase, because most of the platforms players will try to have a kind of the cloud structure. And even the third party who are providing the services also may be in the cloud, right? So that's there. And since this is a master direction coming from the RBI, it may continue to bring more pressure on the regular audits, demonstrating on the regular intervals that your compliance status to that organizations. I don't know, many of you may be knowing the banks go through the CSIT audit, the cybersecurity ID and examination. I'm not sure that the CSIT examination will get extended to the non-PSOs, which is a very tough kind of an assessment from the RBI side. So what is the way forward? I think adopt a top-down approach. So look at from the top board level and then try to work it out. Ensure alignment between business, technology, and compliance. That's very critical. Segment actionables into policies based, like what policy need to adhere to, what technology need to adhere to. That's where look at it. Put up on a holistic approach that how do you define the policy, people, processes, and technologies, and then map the controls to whole of the payment and the customer journey. So this is like some of these best practices that to start itself. So again, just quickly, I'll take a couple of minutes to just talk about that, what approach that you may follow. That we'll be calling that. This is the typically approach that we follow for any kind of the compliance support for any of our customers. But you can also follow this approach, and we'll share the deck with you. And again, request you to please share your feedback. And please do share. I'll take a 5-minute break before that, so that at least we can respond to some of the questions. So approach is very important. First, I think very important, just go and check where do we stand, right? So look at the gap assessment or compliance assessment, map the controls which may be applicable, certain things like mobile controls. If you're not having any kind of the mobility platform for your customers or for organizations to support your payment operation, you may not need to look at those controls. So look at the applicability of controls first. Review your governance framework, policies, processes, technologies, which are already there. Look at that. Does it cover all the master direction point? Look at that all kind of the gaps which are there at the third-party levels, at the ground level. Those are need to be looked at. Look at your risk assessment practices and have a gap assessment kind of insights, like all the 120, 125 controls, whatever has been laid down. Where do you stand? And what are the gaps are there? Because most of the places you may have something or other, like change management. You may be putting into a kind of a review mechanism, but it may be on the mail, but may not be able to demonstrate. So you need to figure it out that what kind of a structure that I need to put in place, that the regular change management, which is taking place in an application environment, is demonstrable. As the master direction has come, please keep in mind that all the controls, you will need to figure it out that how you will be able to demonstrate to the regulators, right? So one is definitely it's going to enhance your security postures and for your partners, for your customers. But I think it's also important that it allows you to demonstrate your security capabilities to the regulators. So first, look at where do you stand, and then go on to building the control framework from the policies. So look at that, what are the policies that you need to put in place, and so that it becomes easier for the team to drive the implementations, right? Set up the monitoring and review mechanisms, that KRIs, KPIs, that you define it, and go over the implementations. Set up the entire risk management framework. Look at that, what are your input sources, where that you can identify what are the open risks that you have. Okay, and then continue to manage those risk assessment, risk mitigation, and ensure for the implementation. Go for the certification standard, because that allows you to put up a measurable, sustainable risk management framework like ISO 27 or PCA basis. That will suggest, and definitely set up the BCPDR and exit study. So this is where that we help you to design the control framework. And while in this process, you will also able to identify that what are the technical controls or the tools that you will need to deploy, because certain things may be there, certain things may not be there, right? And then go about identifications on the implementation of those controls. And I think 8 months time is still not less time, but it's definitely too short. But some of the large ones, and which are the majority ones, they will have to focus on. And then implementation support, which is typically we can come and intervene, where that help you to detail policy implementations, awareness workshops can be done, help you to the security solution implementations, that identification of the security, writing the specification, which is in line with the expectation of master directions, right? So that's taking care of it and helping you to identify the solutions, help you to perform the risk assessment on a regular basis, and also BCPDR. So that's where there. Now I'll take a pause. Here our contact details are there. You may reach out, and I'll pick up some of the questions which are there. And those who have not put up any question, if you have a question, you may raise your hand. We'll be happy to pick up the questions. So I'm stopping my share, and we'll keep it open for any discussions. So I think just see.
One question from Sanjay Shashank. So is digital device, example, mobile phones are getting certified and regularly assessed for fintech and regulatory compliance protected. So he's just checking, do we have to check mobile phones for the regulatory assessment or compliance aspect?
No, I don't think mobile phones are getting certified. But yeah, just a question as an idea. But I don't think people are looking for the mobile phone as for the certification. But yeah, your app which is there on the mobile phone, definitely that need to have the go through the certification process. And because again, security audit requires the showcase compliance with it. Yes, definitely. If you IS audit is there, IS audit you should make sure that IS audit has a good coverage of the master direction as well, which you need to submit to the board. So it's just not which should be limited with the ITGC control, but to little widen up to see that what are the controls from the system perspective is being taken care of it. While anyway, you will require to separately submit the compliance status with respect to this master direction also to your board, right? So this is there, but it was great interacting with you all guys. We still have a couple of minutes. Anybody want to ask question, please raise your hand. We'll enable the speaker, or if anybody has any feedback, we'll be happy to pick it up. But meanwhile, again, I'll continue to emphasize, please do share your feedback. Your feedback always encourages us to keep doing more and more. So please do, anybody who has not given the feedback, please do share the feedback. And we'll send back this deck to those who have shared the feedback. But we are still there. Please ask any questions that if you have, you want to raise, speak, please raise your hand.
Yes, Shashank, there is another question from Manjunath. Had RBI started auditing for RBI direction released in 2023, April and November?
Yes, Manjunath, yes, they have started asking. So first, they have not started the auditing per se, but they have started asking to showcase the compliance status. In fact, one of the bank that we were helping on outsourcing guidelines, which was released on April, they asked that lots of the questions. So they listed on the controls and asked the bank to submit that status with respect to compliance. So not an audit per se, but yes, they are asking. Because maybe Sakshi, if you can enable mic of Vikas. Vikas is asking another question. The system, I think SAR is primarily system audit. I assume Vikas by certain impairment. I think in this master direction, I have not found that they emphasize on that audit by the certain impairment. That's also they have removed it from the November guidelines. But what they emphasize that it should be done by the experienced professionals, right? Now you need to continue to follow that all the guidelines and instruction from the certain, but you may not need to have a mandatorily get the audit done by the certain impaneled vendor. So we have been also been doing the system audit for various of the NBFCs and the banks.
Yes, Vikas.
Yeah, Vikas, you can go ahead and ask question. And guys, please do share your feedback, please. Because your mic has been enabled. We are not able to hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, Vikas.
Yes, Vikas.
Yes, Shashank. Shashank, the question was same. We were just asking if the SAR is mandated to be done by a certain impaneled auditor.
No,
This could be internal, right?
Yes.
This could be done internally.
So you need to figure it out. Those who are rightly expertise, then you can get it done.
Great. Thanks, Shashank.
Thanks. Any question, guys? Any feedback?
Shashank, there is another question for BB.
Five feedback, guys. Please do share your feedback. It always, we love it, right? We love it. Yeah. I think there is a question. Sachin Satpule, I missed you join on time. Will you say session? Yes, Sachin. And yes, everyone, we will have the deck available in a day or two time on our YouTube channel as well as on our website. Satyajit, I think asking for BBPS, BOU, API, who will audit? I think you can use any third party who can help you to do an audit. It need not need necessarily to be done by any specific institution. You can find out the right partner and who can help you to do the audit. Guys who all are there, please do share your feedback. We'll get back to you with the decks. Everybody loves feedback because it always helps them to continue to improve, know where the gaps are there, and allow them to know their strengths and improve upon. So with this, if no questions, we'll take in a closer, and please do reach out in case if any kind of help you're looking for to help you into this compliance journey for this master direction. We were very happy to interact with you and your team. Yeah, Avanya, okay, Avanya wants to talk, maybe Sakshi, if you can enable the screen, Mike. So guys, we have formally taken it off. Those who have any questions, maybe stay back and ask questions, or you want to continue, please do continue. So Avanya, please go ahead.
Hi, Shashank.
Hi,
I just wanted to check, let's say I'm giving my services to a third party as a PA. So in that case, it requires me to enable my merchants to, sorry, the customers to report a fraudulent transaction. Let's say I'm only giving my services to a merchant. I am not directly interacting with the merchant's customers. Then how can I, as a PSO in that case, enable them to report any fraudulent transaction?
So I think I may not have the straight answer, Avanya, because need to understand the whole structure in detail. But I think you may need to put up on a kind of a framework if you have a portal or some kind of a interface which you have provided, which may allow that customer or the merchant to report the frauds on your portal, because you may not be directly interacting with them. So some kind of the structure, but I think right answer we may be able to provide that if you understand that exact interface, how the structure is there, then we may be able to guide it better.
Hey Shashank, I have joined along with Ayan. So we are a payment aggregator. Payment aggregator typically provides services to the merchants, right? We don't have any direct interface with the customers. So the question which we have here is that we provide services to the merchant. We don't have the mobile application, and the website belongs to merchant, right? We just facilitate the online transaction. So in this case scenario, how do we enable the end users to report the fraud to us? Or here the customer means merchant, so we have to enable merchants to report the fraud to us.
Absolutely. So majority of the cases, customer will not be able to know also that who has been the backend payment aggregator, right? Because if I'm coming to any merchant platform and do the transactions, sometimes it says that, okay, who is the payment aggregator, right? But sometimes customer may not able to figure it out. Customer may not have that kind of an understanding also that, okay, those who are in the banking, they may able to figure it out, but those who are not in banking, they may not able to figure it out. So probably I think you will have to work with the merchants to allow them at their interface to log the complaints or the fraud transactions or the fraud. And then you need to build a mechanism with the merchants to report back to that your backend where that fraud has been reported, and then accordingly you take an action. So you will have to primarily build an interface between you yourself and the merchant.
Got it. Sure. Thank you.
And we were happy to discuss offline, Avanya and the team. Sure. So I think thank you guys. Thank you. And we'll take a close now. And lovely interacting with you. I think it was a wonderful discussion. Lots of the questions coming up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.